Stop judging and criticizing your child. Find a way to empower them and let them learn from their mistakes and failures. Now, what is the one-word question every child asks all day long?
Why?
Why? Why are you criticizing me? Why can't I live up to your expectations? I guess I'm not good enough. And I guess I have to live up to expectations in order to be loved. All of a sudden, now they're in life having to live up to people's expectations. When your child walks away from you, stop and ask, what are they concluding about themselves?
Today's guest has spent over 3 decades working to help thousands of clients improve their lives by working on issues such as procrastination, the fear of public speaking, the inability to stand up for oneself, to more serious problems such as depression, the inability to get your relationships to work, eating disorders, and anxiety of all types. Working side by side with her husband, they learned that many of the beliefs that contributed to their clients' problems were formed during childhood, often by well-intentioned parents. As a result, the connection between what parents do, the beliefs that children form, and how these beliefs affect their lives as adults sparks our guest's desire to tackle the root of the problem. While providing a cure, her devotion to prevention underpins her commitment and passion to change how we parent. With a mission to help parents empower their children to be all that they can be so that they can thrive both in childhood and adult life, while making parenting easier, fun, and more fulfilling, the author of The Parenting That Empowers, an online course on effective parenting, and the co-author of The Chicken Soup for the Soul, the Guide to Effective Parenting. Our guest today has been instrumental in shifting the way we see ourselves and our role as parents. It is my honor to introduce you to the co-founder and president of the Lefkoe Institute, a parenting and life coach, a facilitator, and a mom of 2 amazing young women, Shelly Lefkoe. Shelly, welcome to Empower Kids TV. I am so excited to have you here.
Thanks, Nicole. It's good to be here.
All right, I'm going to jump right in. Over the years, as I talk to parents with the aim of helping them look at their parenting journey differently, the one thing I get most often is, we were raised this way and we're fine. So why do we now need to change the way we parent and be focused on beliefs? Can you help us kind of answer that one?
That's such a great question. I love that question. And it is very common that people say that, you know, I was raised like this, I got hit, I'm fine. And the truth is, I've been working with people for 30 years. And while we're fine, we are mostly functional and we get through the day, I would contend that the way we were parented has a huge impact on the beliefs that we create that keep us from living the life that we want to live. So most people who are listening, just ask yourself the question, do I express myself fully? Do I say what I think, say what I feel, dress how I want? Do I stand up for myself? Do I procrastinate? Do I worry about what other people think? Do I have healthy, functional relationships? Do I settle or do I go for it in life? When I make a mistake or fail, do I say, way to go, learning opportunity, or do I beat myself up? So while we are fine, clearly, we are not all that we could be. And a lot of us do have places where we feel pain. And so it isn't about being fine or not fine. It's about having the life that we dream about. Or dare to dream about.
I like that because it completely shifts the conversation. And I think talking about if we're fine from our own childhood puts us in a defensive position, because then we get really defensive of our parents. Don't look at me. I don't want you to judge me. But I think when you shift the conversation to, am I living my life to the fullest capacity? there's a freedom there to explore. So I absolutely love that. I think when we have the conversation about letting go of control-based parenting, and by that I mean where we use punishments and threats and imposed consequences with our kids, I think what a lot of parents struggle with is the belief that we're supposed to help our kids be good at things. We're supposed to help them gain the ability to do the things they need to do and learn the things they need to learn, because we really believe that that's going to influence their level of happiness now and as adults. But if I'm understanding your work correctly, your work is really saying that happiness doesn't really depend on our abilities in those areas, but more on our beliefs. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes. There are people who are joyful and happy, who don't have a lot of money in the bank and they don't have accomplishments to speak of.
Mm.
I have a daughter who lives in Hawaii and she loves to surf. That's her passion. And she also has a child that she wants to raise. And so she is working as a server and bartending 3 nights a week to make enough money to help, raise her child. And she said, Mom, if I got a full-time job, I couldn't be with him and do what I love doing. And so, she has a life that people go, oh my God, I'm so jealous. There's nothing different about her other than she said, this is the life I choose.
Mm.
And her self-worth doesn't come from her achievements. I have clients who are highly achieved, very successful, worth millions of dollars. And the first thing they work on when they work with me is, I'm not good enough. I'm not, I'm struggling. I procrastinate, or I have a fear of public speaking. So this idea that, if you get your kid, and again, I'm not saying you shouldn't challenge your kids, that you shouldn't teach your kids how to do things. I'm not saying you shouldn't want the best for your kids or the most for your kids, but want their passion, want them to live their truth, not what you think is going to make them happy. Because going to Harvard not only doesn't it make you happy, it doesn't even guarantee you success. Will it open doors for your child? Absolutely. But will it guarantee they're going to have healthy, functional relationships? Will it guarantee they're going to get out of bed in the morning and say, God, I love my life? And so we'll get to what I think the job of a parent is in this, I'm sure, in this interview. But be careful that that's a pitfall, that my job is to teach my kids things. Your job, part of your job, is to teach your kids how to learn, how to find out the information they want, how to be innovative, how to, so when they take something apart, if it's not terribly expensive, let them. Or don't let them take what they're taking apart, but go to the thrift store or go to a garage sale and get them things to take apart.
And explore. I love that. And I love the example you gave with your daughter, because I remember when I stepped away from my career, and a lot of my peers had the same thing. When I stepped away from my career to spend time with my kids, I had to work on my self-identity, because so much of it was linked to my career. And there was a real fear that if I took this step away, that I would slow down the progress and somehow I would be left behind. And that would mean something about my identity and my worth. And it took a lot of work to let go of that. And I think the desire to spend time with my kids kind of prompted that work, because then I was caught in the middle. Yeah. So I love to see the space that you were able to help your daughter to create, where she could just craft a life that fills her with joy, rather than look at how she might be judged because of some accomplishment or the other. And that's amazing.
And Nicole, the two beliefs, I just got off a session like 4 months ago, with the belief he eliminated two beliefs. What makes me good enough are my accomplishments. And what makes me good enough is having other people think well of me. And, I've often said in interviews, when I got rid of the belief, what makes me good enough is having other people think well of me. That was my Martin Luther King Jr. moment, because I was free at last.
Yeah.
And when you get rid of that belief, what happens is, we didn't really talk about beliefs and what they are and how they get formed. We kind of jumped right into this. But beliefs get formed when you come in, you're a blank slate, and you don't know whether you're good enough or not good enough. You don't know whether you're important or not important. And we look at our parents, and if we're criticized all the time, we say, oh, I guess I'm not important. I'm sorry, I'm not good enough. And if your parents looking at their iPhone all the time when they talk to you, well, I guess I'm not important, so we form these beliefs. And when you only praise your child for their accomplishments, you got an A, oh, you didn't get an A. You scored a goal, or you didn't score a goal. What happens is you start to identify your self-worth and your good enoughness with something outside of you, your achievements. And what I wish I could have people be flies on the wall while I work all day, because I work with so many successful people who are worth lots and millions of dollars. And the first thing they work on with me is, I'm not good enough. And because your achievements don't make you good enough. I am the same person whether I achieve something or I don't.
Yeah.
And if I achieve something and then I don't achieve it, like we when we first started this with this process we worked in companies, and we made a lot of money. And my husband was miserable. He didn't want to be on the road. He didn't want to be away from our family. He hated it. And so the company ended up going bankrupt, and we lost our house, our big, 5-bedroom house with a swimming pool in Westport, Connecticut. And it was really interesting because I was the same person I was when I had all that as when I didn't have all that, and nothing changed about me. So I can't be good enough or not good enough based on success or based on what you have or based on that. And the evidence doesn't change it either. People who have all that still feel not good enough, and they have to keep having it and having it. It's like a beach ball called I'm not good enough, but what makes me good enough are my achievements, keeps that beach ball underwater. And the same thing is true with having other people think well of you. If I could tell parents one thing and give one gift, this is your takeaway moment. Tell your child, no matter what you do, somebody's not going to like it. So you may as well do what you want, wear what you want. But before you do anything, stop and ask yourself, what might the consequences of my actions be? And do I want to live with those consequences?
I love that.
So when they get into high school and somebody says, oh, we were driving home from the party, this happened to my daughter, and the designated driver had a drink, they found out. She didn't say, what will people think if I get out of the car? She said, what will the consequences be if I stay in the car? And she shared that with me when she came home.
That's awesome.
It was because I really hammered that one, because I didn't want my kids to have what I had for so much of my life till I got rid of it, what is this one thinking? What is that one thinking? If I wear this, and what if I'm wearing jeans and everybody else is dressed up? So I'd call my friends and ask them what they were wearing to the party. And I would, always, what if I buy a car, if it's red, what will people think? Now, of course, I have a red car, But when I realized that, when I got rid of that belief and it really became apparent to me, no matter what I do, where, somebody's not going to like it.
Yes. Yes.
So, I may as well live my life.
Yes.
And the cost of that belief is your child's authenticity.
Mm. Mm.
And it's the last thing you ever want to sacrifice is their authenticity.
That's a high cost. I think sometimes we could run into the mindset that if I'm a good parent, my kids will have good beliefs versus if I'm making mistakes as a parent. But what I've found in my parenting journey, first of all, there's no perfect in parenting. There's just the best that I can do today. And I found that sometimes life circumstances just come up and I'll see my kids. Now I pay attention, so I'll see a narrative, and I'll give you an example. So my kid's dad went away for work, and he said, I'm going to be away for X amount of time, and I'll be back, and we'll talk every day. And so that was happening, and that promise was kept. And then it was time for him to come back, and business got extended, and he needed to stay. And my son's response was, what could be so good over there that you don't want to come back home? And that just hit me, and I thought, thank God I'm a more aware parent so that we can have that conversation. But in the past, Shelly, what I would have done would have said, oh, he's so sad, he's missing daddy. It's okay, daddy will be back. And I'll have left it. There would have been no conversation about the belief that he was forming. Can we just touch on that?
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. And that's it. So I want to address two things that you said. I love you. You're just my favorite. It's so amazing dealing with someone who's done my work. But being a conscious parent means listening. It doesn't mean being perfect. I was not perfect. We all lose it. The thing is, when you lose it, to be trained as to what to say and what not to say. So it's not that you have to be perfect. It's that you have to think about when you lose your patience, when you do something, to just go back and clean it up. Because again, when your kids come in, all they know is you, the mom and dad, or mom and mom, or dad and dad, or whatever your family looks like. And they're looking at you, why, it's so interesting. When parents separate or get divorced, the first thing that the kid wants to know is exactly what you said. Why doesn't daddy want to live with us anymore? And to have that conversation, what's more important than us? And to sit down and say, sweetie, you are the most important thing in your dad's life. And he has to work. He works, and sometimes you have to do things at work, and you can't be home. And he wants to support us and, make sure that we have the life that we want. So, to teach them that, I wouldn't say this to a child, you can't always have what you want in life. It's nothing I would ever say to a child. But to teach them that life throws them curveballs and they have to have resilience. Yes. I know that you wish daddy was here, and daddy wishes he was here. And he can't be right now, but it's not because you're not important. He calls you every day because you are so important. So getting your children to see, when you do my work, you start to know about what I mean by see. Yes. So let me give you an example. If your child is talking to you and you're doing, yeah, I'm listening, what they're seeing is, I'm not important. What I have to say is not important. They actually think they're seeing that, but they're not. They're seeing you on your phone while they're talking,
Yeah. But in their
but
mind's
it
eye,
doesn't
it's
feel
different. Yeah.
exactly. And so you have to always ask yourself, what is my child seeing? What are they concluding based on what I'm doing and saying? And if you listen, and I love what you said, you'll hear your kids say things like, I stink at math.
Mm.
You know, I always tell the story of my goddaughter was doing her homework at the kitchen table. She was in the fourth grade. I think it was fourth grade. And all of a sudden she goes, God, I stink at math. And I said, really? And I did the process with her.
Right.
Where did you see that? And she said, well, my teacher my teacher gave us a surprise math test and put the name of all the kids who failed on the board. And she concluded, I stink at math.
Yeah.
And I played this game with her that I teach in my parenting course called Nipping Negative Beliefs in the Bud. And I said to her, what's another interpretation that it would explain the fact that you failed the test? What else could it mean? Could mean you stink at math. What else? She said, well, it could mean it was a surprise test and I didn't study. And I said, could be. And she said, and it could mean that my teacher was not a very good teacher. And I said, could be. And she said, and it could mean that I'm not good in algebra, but it doesn't mean I won't be good in other kinds of math.
Mm.
So I said, it could mean all those things. And I said, but did you ever see you stink at math? She goes, no. I said, what did you see? I failed a surprise test and my teacher put it on the board. Where was I stink at math? I made that up.
Mm.
Next year, she was in honors math.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
That's called nipping negative beliefs in the bud.
I love it. I love it because I think, and I love that I got introduced to your work in a time where I just think that my kids were crying out for it, because that's exactly what I did with the process of why is daddy not coming home? What's so important? And we talked about, first of all, why daddy would work in the first place. Who's it for? Yeah. And then we talked about what things could be happening that would make him stay, so that he's not holding on to the belief that that's more important than me. It might just be an extension of a meeting. But I think what that gave me as a parent, and what I love about your work, Shelly, is that it really empowered me to have a different conversation outside of just saying, oh dear, I'm so sorry, you're sad, you're missing daddy, do come home. Because I had no tools for beyond there.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about your work.
Thank you, Nicole. And you know, sweetie, there's something that you brought up that's really important. You know, a lot of people say, you know, daddy has to work to support us. And then they have a belief daddy works to support us, as opposed to when, you know, when we grow up, we have passions in life. Hopefully you'll do something you're passionate about, and you love your friends and you love your family, but you love your passion. And sometimes, you know, your work involves being there for a certain amount of time, and sometimes you give a little extra time because you love it.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that your family is not important. So they start to realize that it's not all about them, you know, and you're not just working for money.
I love that. I'm gonna go back with that one because I love it.
Good.
I wanted to talk about triggers. So we're talking about the early parenting. And I think one of the things we try to do at Empowered Kids is really help parents get the awareness that their power to guide as parents really comes from the connection that they can create. And what I've learned over time is that that power in that communication really comes from my ability to tune to their emotions, but really also to allow myself to resonate with the full range of emotions that they're having. And in the beginning, Shelly, I was not good at this. So what would happen was, instead of a tune-in, I would mirror. So if my kids came and they were very sad or they were very worried, I was very sad and I was very worried. Or it would go the other way, where some action would trigger me completely derail me, and I'd lose control of my emotions, and then I'd be yelling like a crazy mom. I promised I would never be. And it was your work. You and Morty really taught me that my triggers were an invitation to look within. And what I gained from that was that this is how I was. Everything that happened that triggered me, it was external. You need to change so that I don't feel ... I don't feel sad. I don't feel angry. I don't feel frustrated. You need to change. And so I wanted to talk about that because I think that's where a lot of us as parents get caught up in our triggers, that our children need to behave differently so that we could cope. So can we talk about why you think triggers are an invitation to look within?
I love you. I just love you. So our beliefs that we have from childhood allow us to be triggered. So let's assume you have a belief, I'm not important, which a lot of people have, because very few of us really got the attention that we needed as kids. But you don't know you had this belief, it's totally unconscious. Now all of a sudden your child ignores you. Don't you dare ignore me. Why are you ignoring me? I'm talking to you. You are so disrespectful. Now, when you get rid of the belief, I'm not important, you just go, honey, I don't appreciate being ignored. I don't ignore you.
Yeah.
I would really like it if you answered when I talk to you.
Yeah.
No anger, no upset, no emotion, just a request, just a preference.
I love it.
So that's number one. Our beliefs stop us. And by beliefs, let me tell you what I mean by a belief. A belief is a statement about reality that we believe is the truth.
Yes.
And the way our beliefs live for us is, I've got to get a new story because my Harvard PhDs is getting old, but I can't help it. But I've had 5 Harvard PhDs who had the belief I'm stupid. They know they're not stupid. They went to Harvard, but that belief is still there. So our own beliefs trigger us. Another one is if you come from strict parenting. So I feel that there are more than 2 paradigms, strict, permissive. There's something totally different, which we'll call conscious parenting,
Yes.
which has nothing to do with strict or permissive. It has to do with what would serve my child right now. To let them have a little freedom, to let them have some power, or to pull it in and protect them. See, the truth is, you are not your child's boss. You are their guardian angel. You are here to guide them and keep them safe until they can do that on their own. You're not here to teach them the ropes, okay? So you're here to empower them. And that's a paradigm shift in where you come from with your child. Again, it doesn't mean you're not going to teach them stuff. It doesn't mean you're not going to protect them or help them. It's just a shift of where you come from. Okay? Now, if you come from very strict parenting and you were told, because I said so, that's why. If you were hit a lot or demeaned a lot, if you couldn't get your needs met as a kid, you might conclude, I'm powerless. And how that generally manifests is anger. So underlying anger is always powerlessness, because if you could do something about it, you just would. You wouldn't get angry, you would just change it. We get angry because we feel powerless. So talk about a trigger. Every time your child pushes that powerless button, right? I'm not eating that. I'm not going to sleep. I'm not listening to you. And let me tell you, the more conscious parenting you do, the more you will have that.
Mm.
Because my husband used to say, a compliant child is not what you want.
Mm.
Because a compliant child grows up to be a compliant adult who does what others tell them to do, including take drugs and have unprotected sex.
Yeah.
You do not want a compliant child. You want a child who cooperates.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you look at somebody's kid and you go, why can't you be like that kid? That kid listens to her mother all the time. You know, my husband used to say, if your kid is playing in his room and he's in the middle of a project, like when my grandson is in his Legos, he's in his Legos. And when you call and go, come down, dinner's ready now, if they just stop what they're doing and run downstairs, they've already concluded that what you want is more important than what I want, unless they're hungry.
You know what though? I think that's such an important conversation to have. And I think for me, the example you gave hit home for me, right? Because it was my example. I felt ignored when I would call my kids, irrespective of what I was calling them for. I just felt like if I called you, you should jump. Say, oh, hi, mommy, come running, right? And it was in my mind that I was being ignored. And then when I used that as my invitation, my trigger invited me to go in, and I realized that in that moment, I was feeling like I was not important. And I dealt with that, and I used your work beautifully to kind of help me really shine the light on that belief and release it. Then I didn't even see my kids as ignoring me. I saw my kids engrossed in what they were doing. I saw them passionate about what they were doing. And that's what I love, because I am that way. I get engrossed in my work and passionate. And so then we were able to sit together and say, okay, what do we do in those circumstances? And my kids say, Mommy, I would prefer if you came up to me rather than yelled at me across the room. If you could come up to me and just touch me, then I would hear you, and then I would be able to respond. And that's made a massive difference.
I just want everybody to sit with that for a minute. That's a paradigm shift. It makes me cry. That's a paradigm shift that will change your child's life. Because what does a child say? Wow, I'm respected enough. And I believe if you treat somebody with dignity and respect, they will treat you with dignity and respect. I used to tell my kids that. Don't treat me with dignity and respect because I'm your mother. You treat me with dignity and respect because that's how you treat people.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I want to tell you something. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and my now 30-year-old daughter came, brought me flowers, made me dinner. We went down to the pool and sat in the jacuzzi and talked for hours. And we started talking about her dad. And there's a story that I tell that's very, very powerful. And if anybody's ever heard me listen, I'm certain you've heard the story, but she was a hormonal teenager. Mm-hmm. And my husband was the best father that ever lived on the planet. I mean, he was an amazing father, my hero. And she was a hormonal teenager, and she walked in the house and she said something to him, and she goes, "Oh my God, you're being such a jerk." It was a little more colorful than jerk. I don't want to say it. But it was very similar. You know, you being such a jerk or something like that. And I flew off the chair. I was like, oh my God. And it really wasn't jerk. It was not nice. And she walks in her room, she slams the door, and he goes to her room, goes to the door, and he says, "I hear a teenager who loves her dad and is not in touch with it at this moment." She throws her shoe at the door, and I hear laughing. And she comes out and she goes, Oh my God, Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you so much. You're the best dad in the world. I can't believe I said that to you. She was mortified. So that's the story I tell. So we're sitting at the jacuzzi yesterday and she says to me, Mom, it wasn't that he came to the door and said, I hear a teenager who loves her dad. She said it was in that moment he was saying, I love you no matter what.
Mm.
And she said, from that moment on, they never had another fight.
Oh.
She held his hand in the street, and that was his biggest thing as a teenager. She held his hand. That was my husband's proudest accomplishment. But it was, she said, I knew that there was nothing I could do that he would not, that he just loved me no matter what. And we had raised her to know she was unconditionally loved. We told her there's no condition under which we wouldn't love you. We're not mad at you. We're only mad at what you did. You know, I was so conscious of her knowing she was, because most kids don't. Parents think your kid knows that you will love them unconditionally, and they don't. But here it was at 14 that she really got it in that moment.
You know what I love about that? I love it because you bring up a point that I think is really important for parents to get. You can't say the words you're unconditionally loved. You have to live what that looks like. And I think when we get trapped by our own limiting beliefs, when we walk around with the pain that we picked up as children, the truth is we don't live you're loved unconditionally. We live that you are making me feel a particular way and I can't deal with that in this moment. And our kids feel it as you don't love me in this moment. And I think the gift that you're giving us is greater than just being able to guide our kids to create great beliefs for themselves. You're giving us the gift to be able to shine the light on our own beliefs so that our kids can feel what it feels like to be unconditionally loved. And I think that surpasses anything else we could potentially do for them. You know, and you make me cry.
And don't we all want that, Nicole?
We do. We absolutely.
Don't we all want to be loved with our foibles and all? We
Yes.
want to be loved even though,
Yeah.
whatever, you know? It's the best.
It is.
It's
You want to know that you can see my warts and all and still love me for who I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that. And I also love, I think what you can take away is that when you can hold that space, there's room to just move into a different energy. And the fact that that conversation ended with laughter and a hug just shows the power of not standing in the space of unconditional love, but your kids feeling like they're unconditionally loved. So before I talk more and cry, I'm gonna say that for me is the best gift. If you had one thing that you can ask our parents to change right now, just one small thing that they can change today, what would it be and why?
Woo! Stop judging and criticizing your child. Find a way to empower them and let them learn from their mistakes and failures.
That's a big one.
Because I'm not good enough is so pervasive, and it comes from the question, you know, I always ask parents when they have little kids, what does your child do when you come home at the end of the day? Think about it.
They run and they hug you.
Run. Run. I had a client in Uganda who said, run. They run to me. And what do they want? They want affection, attention, and acknowledgement. Now, what is the one word question every child asks all day long?
Why?
Why? Why are you criticizing me? Why can't I live up to your expectations? I guess I'm not good enough. And I guess I have to live up to expectations in order to be loved. All of a sudden, now they're in life having to live up to people's expectations. I don't have to live up to anybody's expectations. I want to serve. When I do this, I want to give you as much useful information as I can give you. I want to give you principles. Like when your child walks away from you, stop and ask, what are they concluding about themselves? I want to do that more than I want to do anything, because parenting is my passion. But if you called me and said, yeah, I saw your interview with Nicole, you didn't live up to my expectations, I'm so not interested, I can't tell you. If you said to me, I wanted this, you didn't give it to me, I'm interested. How can I have done it that? Tell me what would have worked for you. That I want to know. But that I didn't live up to your expectations? My daughter, so my kids went to an alternative school. No grades, no tests, no homework for 9 years. And by the way, the other daughter went to one of the top 10 universities in the country and ran a half Ironman.
Love
So
it.
my girl is very but here's the thing about that daughter. Doesn't tell anybody. Not that she keeps it a secret. If somebody asked her where she went to school, she would tell them. But she doesn't need to tell people that to be okay. It's stunning. It is the thing I so appreciated about her is that she never talks about those huge accomplishments that she has. It's just not who she is. So this child graduates. Now she did go to a public high school, but not till 8th grade. And now she's in high school. First year, 14 years old, she questions the teacher and she says to the teacher, I don't agree. I don't think what you're saying is true. So the teacher says to her, I'd like you to stay after class. She stays after class and the teacher says to her, don't you ever dare question me in front of my class again. And Brittany said, well, with all due respect, my teachers and my parents taught me to question authority. So if you don't want me to do it in front of the class, I won't, but I will question you. And she says, I am very disappointed in you, Brittany. And she said, I am not here to live up to your expectations. She said, I am here to get an education, and you are here to give me one.
I love it.
14 years old.
Love it.
The teacher calls us and goes, in my life, I have never been spoken to that way. Respectfully. Respectfully.
Yes, I love it.
That was the thing. She wasn't in her face. She wasn't challenging her. She just said, I'm not here to live up to your expectations. Because here's what my husband told her when she was little. You are not on this earth. And let me tell you something. You want to give your kids a gift? You are not on this earth to live up to our expectations, mom and mine. You are here to do your life. We are here to guide you and keep you safe until you can do that on your own. Now, my kid doesn't have fear of not living up to expectations.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And so strong, to be so strong and self-assured to be able to have that conversation. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It is.
I want to go back to the top tip of not judging and criticizing, because I can hear a lot of parents saying, well, how do I correct them then? How do I tell them they're doing something wrong?
Yeah, and I want to tell you something. I was not 100% in this, realm at all. And, at my husband's memorial service, my Hawaii daughter, Blake, said, I not only knew I was unconditionally loved every day of my life by my father, but I never felt judged by him. I said, she probably won't say that at my memorial. I was glad she said it at his. How could you imagine what your life would be like? So instead of, here's how you don't judge, okay? So in my parenting course, I have lots and lots of skills and tools and games and restaurant things and all kinds of stuff. But here's how you don't judge. Get rid of 4 words: good, bad, right, wrong.
Okay.
And use iMessages. Ask questions. Oh, you're failing math. What's going on in class? Are you learning in your learning style? Are you bored? Are you challenged? Is something going on in class? Here's my next top tip. Get to the source of the issue. Your kid is not manipulating you. Your kid is not, kids don't get up in the morning and go, how can I manipulate my mother today? I mean, it's just ridiculous. Your kids have challenges. Get to the source of the problem. Don't just put a Band-Aid on it. Don't just fix it. Get to the source of the problem. Very important. So rather than judging and assuming they're bad, they're wrong, they didn't try, they don't care, just look at what's happening and deal with what's happening. If it's, I would like you to, I would appreciate it if you would, you know, here's a good example. My kids kept saying, they had chores and they kept saying, oh, I forgot to feed the cat. I forgot to feed the cat. Oh, I forgot to do whatever. So one day they came into the kitchen and they said, where's dinner? And I said, oh, I forgot. Oh my God. Oh, I'm going out. I'm meeting Kim for dinner. See ya. And I left. Next night, they come into the kitchen. Where's dinner? Oh God, I forgot again. They looked at me, they went, got it, Mom. There's consequences to your actions. I forgot dinner, you don't eat. You forget to feed the cat doesn't eat.
Yeah. That's a beautiful lesson without judging.
No judgment. Yeah, oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot dinner. Oh my God, please forgive me. And you could use humor.
And use humor. I love it because sometimes we can get so caught up in our own emotions. We forget that it's not that big a deal in the scheme of life. So I love that. And I love the tip of getting curious. I think as new parents, when we come home, we have that sense of curiosity. What does this cry mean? Is it I'm hungry? Is it I'm wet? Is it I need to be played with? Like we're really curious. And as they grow older and get into language, we lose that curiosity. And instead of investigating what's at the root, we find it easier to judge and put our own conclusions on things. So I absolutely love that. We talked a bit about your course. And before we wrapped up today, I just wanted you to share with parents what they can expect from your parenting course, because I think it's an amazing program that all parents should check out.
Me too. Me too. I think it's the manual every parent should get handed when they leave the hospital, or birthing center. But I want to give you one more tip.
Yes.
So a lot of people have the belief mistakes and failures are bad. And if I make a mistake or fail, I'll be rejected. Comes from you walking away angry when they make a mistake. It keeps them from being innovative. Your child will not be successful if they're not innovative in today's world. They're not growing up in your world. They're growing up in a different world. So when your child makes a mistake or fails to do something short of learning opportunity. I did that a little too much, and I used to go, learning opportunity, ding, 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 ding. So one day my daughter looks at me, she was 9 years old. She goes, Mom, it's getting old. I got it. So my parenting course. So it's 8 modules. In fact, this is it. It's so gorgeous. Now you can't get this anymore, except if you email me and ask me, and I'll figure out. No, now it's streaming.
Right.
It's only digital. So, but that was how gorgeous it was. So it's basically the first module is all about beliefs, how they get formed, what you could do to not have them, how to have your kids form positive beliefs, you know, how to have them conclude I'm capable. And then there's one on being the boss of your kid and all about what that entails, how to not be the boss. And then there's lots of skills and tools. And there is a module, the last module is an interview with my daughters, which is kind of, for me, they were way younger, but it's a great interview on what a conscious kid sounds like, and everybody loves that one. And it's just full of how your own beliefs impact your kids. We have some games for restaurants to keep kids engaged in restaurants that are really, really easy and simple. Just so much good stuff.
Oh, thank you very much, Shelly. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your commitment to helping us see ourselves and our roles differently. But I think really it's thank you for helping us find the freedom from those beliefs that kind of bind us to pain rather than allowing us to explore with authentic love. Thank you very much.
I'm tired. Thank you for saying that. I'm tired of listening to people all day long talk about their pain. I want to raise a generation that doesn't have it.
Yes.
And the name of this, where you go, is empoweringanew-generation.com.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you. I just want to say to you, it is such a privilege. I'm not being trite. It is a privilege to be interviewed by you, because not only are you smart as can be, but that you walk your walk and talk your talk, that you did the work you needed to do to become a conscious parent and give your kids something different than you had. And I love and I'm honored that you used our work to do that. I'm your number one fan. I just love you.
Thank you very much, Shelly. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this episode. We're all about sharing and supporting this village. So if you found value in this episode, be sure to share it with your family and friends. And remember, this is a weekly show. So if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you'll be notified of our next episode. As we always say in the village, you're just one connection away. With love and gratitude, empower us. Until next time.